be several places
We found
at
a
once.
typo at the very last minute. That's why all this
Okay.
complication.
When? Still coming up.
So, council, I just wanted to give a little introduction to what will be transpiring next. As many of you know,
I don't think it sounds like your mic's off. No?
It's not working.
It's not working.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as many of you know, that on
No,
March
no.
18th of
Sabrina's parents.
It's my day. As many of you know, on March 18th of this year, the council directed staff to initiate steps toward putting a city charter on the ballot, as well as a companion piece that would be a companion measure that would be putting a property transfer tax on the ballot for voter approval. You cannot, as a city, put a transfer tax on the ballot unless you're a charter city, and right now the city is a general law city, which means we're organized and only have those powers that state general law allows. So we began the process of doing that, and after this presentation right now, we will be going to ask the council for direction on putting those measures on the ballot for the November ballot. The council will not be able to take action until a meeting on Wednesday, August 6th, but staff is asking direction on the specific language and content both of the charter as well as the proposed transfer tax measure. So as part of this, what often happens is that to kind of determine public opinion and public concerns and public support for both the charter and the measure, because it is quite an undertaking to do so. The council also directed staff to engage the services of a consultant to do a citywide poll. And we have with us today Ruth Bernstein from EMC, who conducted that poll in May, and will be giving a short presentation on the results of that poll. And the results of the poll, I think, it would be interesting for the community at large to hear, but it also might help inform the council as it deliberates about whether to go forward with the next step of determining the specific language for the charter and for the ballot measure that staff would then bring back on August 6th for their consideration for placing on the ballot. So without further ado, Ruth Bernstein from EMC.
Thank you very much. I'll just take you through, we've pulled together here some of the highlights from the poll. We don't want to take too much time going through all the detail. It was a fairly short poll, but I'll walk you through kind of the overall findings and some of the numbers. So what we saw, definitely we see viability for these two measures. We see, as you know, we'll go through this, a little bit of confusion about the charter measure, but definitely as we explain it, voters understand it, and very strong support for both of them. So we do recommend that you move forward with placing these on the ballot, because we think there's definitely support in the community. We do see the tiered rate and no exemptions are kind of key components that we feel like you want to include moving forward. So what we did just on the, I'm not quite being mic'd. You want me to get closer?
Just a little closer.
I'll just get a little closer. So what we did, a telephone survey here among voters, randomly selected voters in the city. We've been polling here for a number of years, and as you know, we've told you this before. I think it's challenging to conduct a poll here because there aren't that many voters, but we do try to reach pretty much everyone. We were able to complete 151 interviews, and then we do feel like it's reflective. The demographics are reflective of voters who are likely to turn out, and you can see we've done other polling here in the city, both for the school district and for the city. So you can see we have some comparisons of old data. For instance, in this first question, do you think things in Emeryville are going in the right direction, or do you think they're off on the wrong track? And this is a very general optimism or pessimism question that we love to ask all over the state. And your voters are like the happiest voters consistently everywhere. And I know maybe not everybody in this room will think they're happy all the time. But we're amazed to see how consistent and how consistently positive this community is. 69% say things in Emeryville are going in the right direction, only 16% off on the wrong track. I can tell you that this is not the case other places. In San Francisco, in San Jose, where I've polled recently, we have just over a majority say things are going in the right direction, so in the low 50s, that's quite a bit different. And statewide overall, I think it's somewhere around 24% think the state is going in the right direction. So you can feel very proud of these numbers. I think this people in the community really like living here. And then also on a positive note, we do ask, using a scale of excellent, good, only, fair, or poor, please rate the following in Emeryville. And there's so much positive, we're only showing the positive here because there's so little negative. The overall quality of police services, 47% rate as excellent, 39% as good. As you can imagine, some of the neighboring cities do not get numbers quite this positive. The quality of fire services also overwhelmingly positive, 84%. Overall quality of life in Emeryville, 88% positive, 32% excellent. Overall quality of city services also very, very strong at 77%. And management of the city budget, 38% positive and 40% don't know. So it's not a lot of negative, just many people are unclear. And looking at this historically, as I said, we've been polling here for a number of years, so you can see we've been asking these questions about overall quality of life, overall quality of city services, and management of budget, and you can see how consistent these numbers really are over time, and that they've been consistently strong. Then we did ask a number of items. We said, how important are each of these to you? And one of the things we're looking for is, if people are going to approve an additional tax, we like to see where they think the money, not saying directing it specifically, but just generally, what do they feel like, how the city spends money, what do they think is important? And we see emergency services, no surprise, come to the very top, 77% saying very important. Quality public schools, 69% very important. Maintaining open space and parks, sewers and storm drains, recreation programs for youth, bike and pedestrian safety, even the Child Development Center, very strong. Basically, the voters are saying all of these things are important. So then getting into the measures, we did read, we said, I'm going to read you some measures that may be on the ballot this November, and would you vote yes or no? And the first one is just, shall City of Emeryville charter be adopted to establish Emeryville as a charter city? Not a lot of information, so it's not huge surprise that 49% are undecided, say they're not sure. 34% though do actually, we get a plurality saying yes. So even with just that information, yes, and 18% no. But then we explain it. So we say, as you may know, some cities in California are organized under general laws of the state. Others are governed by charter. Cities that are organized under general law have less independence, while the charter may adopt their own procedures, municipal affairs, things like that, and explain kind of what other cities are charter cities. So after we give that information, we ask again, now how would you vote? And 71% said they would vote yes or lean toward voting yes. So you can see this is obviously a situation where we need to do a little bit of communication, but even with a little bit of communication, then the voters are saying, yeah, that makes sense. We want to be like Berkeley and Albany and Piedmont and other charter cities. Then we also asked about the transfer tax measure. And we said, to ensure funding to maintain essential city services, and you can read all of these here, all of these essential city services that we had just asked them about: police, emergency services, park, open space development, bike and pedestrian safety, child care programs. Shall the City of Emeryville adopt a real property transfer tax paid only by buyers and sellers of property at the time of sale, with all funds benefiting Emeryville? 67% say yes or lean toward voting yes, only 29% no. So very strong support for a measure, including the such as where the money might be spent. Then we do give some additional information about, we said if these measures together, if these two measures are supported for Emeryville, do you think these are convincing reasons to support the measures? And the strongest arguments are really about local control. These measures would create a guaranteed source of local funding for our vital city services that by law cannot be taken by Sacramento. all tax dollars will stay here. 48% say that's very convincing. Emeryville residents enjoy the benefits of our clean, safe, and well-maintained city. Because our police and fire services are top-notch, Emeryville is a desirable place to live. These measures will help maintain excellent public safety services. 46% very convincing. And you can see there's others here. It'll help to support youth services. We need this money because Sacramento, we've lost money because of redevelopment. All of these are all compelling, but really the strong ones being, this is going to be our money to spend locally in our city on the things that we care about. After we give this information on the charter measure, so again, we ask, how would you vote? So on the charter measure, we get to 79% yes. Now that's after people have been kind of trapped on the phone and given a lot of information. But and then on the real property transfer tax, we get to 86%. Again, after we've given them tons of information. But that is, you know, historically in Emeryville, we do see strong support for revenue measures. So what we see, we definitely recommend, our team together recommends proceeding with the measure. We think it makes sense. The measure, the way that we worded it, we think that includes the tiered rate, so that'll all be defined in the ballot book. We don't feel like it needs additional exemptions. And then using the language that we tested in the poll, we do think makes sense. And we definitely recommend doing communication. Obviously, the charter measure on its own, if we just say, will you vote on this, it's very confusing to people. And I think it needs additional explanation, not necessarily, you know, strong convincing, but definitely explaining what is a charter city, what am I voting on? And the transfer tax seems to make a lot of sense to people pretty easily. So we do see, you know, good numbers and very positive feeling from your community about this. And I can answer questions if you have any.
Questions from council?
Mayor, I just wanted to make one point, and I don't know if Ruth mentioned this earlier, but both measures would require just a 50% plus one,
50 plus one. Okay.
Right, majority. So
you. Yeah.
just
Yes,
to
thank
put
you.
that out there. Yeah.
That was in my head.
Anything from the public right now? Does anyone want to be heard?